Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Three Peens in a Pod podcast.
Episode 74.
God damn it, 74.
74.
74.
That's what I have, and I'm usually accurate.
74. Yeah, 74. I definitely updated that before we came into this.
Yeah, it's a good thing you updated that before we went live. Wouldn't want to sit here and put your foot in your mouth, you know?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
You wouldn't want everyone to be confused.
Yeah. Well, it's been quite a week. Lots of news, lots of stories, lots of changes in the world that we need to go over immediately now.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know what story to start with. There's been so much news happening.
It's much crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty crazy week. I know a lot of people have been struggling with, like, the loss of power in Texas and everything, but the snow's melting here. I hope it's getting better, but I think if we all just put our best foot forward, we'll be okay.
Our best foot forward? What are you, a grandmother from the 80s?
Yes. I thought you guys knew that.
That would explain a lot.
That one actually, that makes a lot of
That
sense.
makes a lot of sense. For everyone at home, my foot's broken. That's it.
Wait, what?
I have a boot
I heard you did a big pity party live stream and you were all blubbering all over and
Hell
trying
yeah.
to get sympathy.
Yeah, dude, if I get injured in a way that can be hilarious, I'm gonna milk that shit. If I actually go to the hospital and something's seriously wrong, like, I'm not gonna throw a pity party, but I broke my fifth metatarsal. I get to make fun of that.
Is that your pinky toe metatarsal?
It's the midfoot bone, but on the pinky. So it's the pinky foot connector.
So it's not the actual pinky toe, but it's the bone that's next to the pinky toe.
It's like the meaty part of the foot.
Yeah, if you look at your hand, the bones that are inside your palm, I think that's the equivalent bone.
Yeah.
It would be
I
like
think I've broken a pinky toe before, which there's nothing they can really do for that.
Did you try and break a bunch of bricks with your foot? Did you karate chop some bricks and break your little pinky metatarsal?
Surprisingly, even though we did make a video called Brick Soccer where we were kicking a brick. That did
It was
not.
so concerning.
I know, that didn't do the deal, but me stepping off a curb sure shattered that bitch.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so you can talk about your foot to your heart's content, but I just have to say, every time I've read, because obviously when Mark breaks his foot, Bob and Wade need to fucking know right away.
Right, of course.
Bob and Wade need to be informed that their dear friend and fearless leader has shattered a bone.
Yes.
Every time I've seen it described, every time you say the words out loud, every time I even try and remotely contemplate, like, oh, how did you stepped into a sewer grate or what?
Yeah.
It makes my entire body want to stop existing.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have this with injuries? And it's specifically with me, it's a lot of broken bones. If, like, I have this every time I go downstairs, I look down the stairs and, like, I know how to go downstairs, do it every day, live in a house with stairs. Every time I go downstairs, I look at the stairs and I'm like, oh, what if I rolled my ankle? Oh, and then what if I might fall and I try and catch myself and I break my forearm on the banister? That, oh God, is it just me? Am I freaking weird about broken bones, or, like, does this absolutely destroy everyone's mental state every time?
I have a similar thought on stairs, because once a month I do trip on the stairs. Like, once a month, the same step. I'm pretty sure that our stairs, our main staircase leading up to, like, our bedroom, I think one step is like an inch bigger than the other. It's bigger. It has to be, because once a month when I'm going up the stairs, I notoriously trip and fall on the same step. And then just as soon as, like, I get comfortable, I'm like, all right, you know what, whatever. I was just stupid back then. I'm a changed man.
Yeah.
I'll trip and fall again.
Yeah. No, honestly, Bob, I think that's totally justified, because number one, I wouldn't recommend breaking a bone. It has never been fun. And a foot bone is such a shitty bone to break, because I can't walk right now. It literally, a tiny bone in my foot is broken. I cannot walk. I have to use crutches now. I for a month. I have to use crutches for a month. I can't walk for a month. And like, if I had just been thinking more about where the hell I was going, I wouldn't have broken my bone. If I had looked down because I was stepping off a curb, and stepping off a curb, it's not a difficult thing, and I just got very unlucky with how my foot rolled. That's it. That's it. Just
That's great. I'm gonna step away and get my food.
yeah, you do that. It's totally fine.
You keep telling your story.
No,
it's great. I want to hear it.
That's all the story. That's all the story. That's all it is. And then
Yeah, that's like my nightmares though. Like constant, every day, everything that happens, it makes me feel sometimes like I'm an invalid because it's literally that exact thing. When I step off curbs, I look down, and if there's like a sewer grate, or if there's like in our neighborhood, there's like covered over sections of the sidewalk, but it's covered over in a solid panel. But I look and I'm like, oh, what if that panel gives out? Yeah. Like, oh, what if, like, God, I hate that. It makes me like almost throw up. It's really intense. Dude, I can't imagine though. I've heard breaking your foot is actually pretty agony because you walk a lot.
Yeah, you do walk a lot.
It's part of stuff.
You really do take that for granted. Yeah, you definitely do. But yeah, just wouldn't generally recommend it. Also, the other difficulty that I'm having right now is because of that whole big opioid epidemic, doctors are less inclined to prescribe like prescription painkillers, which I get. They're a big problem across the America, definitely the opioid epidemic. But it also means that I have to, I'm relegated for my broken foot, which on my pain scale is pretty high, to Tylenol and Advil. That's what I get for my broken bone. So I've been taken up to the maximum amount of Tylenol and Advil that I can take, which is not very much. Sleeping has sucked. Like, I have not had good sleep the past few nights.
I imagine.
I think I was sympathetically having trouble for no reason. I haven't slept very well the last couple days either. No idea why.
Well, ever since we started doing the same ball in the bowl technique, I think we've been connected with our sleep patterns. They've been very connected. I think everyone at home who does the ball and bowl technique to sleep,
it's like a shared dream.
Yeah, it's a shared experience. I'm actually absorbing a lot of power from your dreams, but
Mark's actually a weird supernatural being that gains power and influence every time someone new does the ball and the bowl sleep technique.
Yeah.
Are you like those crazy wizards from the Doctor Sleep or whatever the hell the sequel to The Shining was that was so bad I almost walked out?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but
did you not watch that? The Doctor Sleep? It was like the sequel to The Shining, but it was literally like an Irish witch lady.
No.
Flying through this. Look, don't watch it. It's not worth it. God damn. Did anyone like that movie? Please.
I don't know what movie you're talking about.
Tell me you hated it. Let's laugh about it. He's stuffing his face right now.
All right, cool, man. That's great. Yeah, good. Yeah. But anyway, that is all that I'm going to talk about my foot. Like, it sucks. I'm probably not going to be on the stream very long because I feel queasy from all the sheer amounts of Tylenol and Advil I've been taking. My kidneys are probably shutting down, and my liver is about to explode. But I'm fine.
You got extras in all those organs, though, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, two livers, 2 hearts.
Exactly.
Basically, get a do-over.
You get one do-over. That's how cats have so many lives. They just got so many livers.
They have a bunch of organs.
Yeah, all redundancies.
Some middle school teacher at some point is like, you know what? Every year we dissect frogs. This year, let's mix it up. There's lots of stray cats. Let's get some cats in here. Let's get these kids some life experiences. Kids start cutting open cats, pulling out 7 hearts, 8 livers, 16 kidneys. Nothing ever goes wrong with kidneys. How am I supposed to know that? What do you beep your thing when you take a drink? Give me a honk.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why cats are so squishy, because their legs and limbs are just filled with extra kidneys.
All organs.
It's just all organs. There's no skeleton in there. It's good shit. Yeah. In other news,
you didn't know about cats.
Yeah, no. In other news, Texas did go through a whole terrible winter storm that was pretty unprecedented. Unprecedented as far as I know, right? Has Texas ever had a winter storm this bad? Probably at some point.
From
maybe.
what I was seeing, all anecdotal, people were saying, like middle-aged people were saying, never in their lifetimes
Okay, at
they've
least
seen anything like this. That they get snow in parts of Texas, but it's like a dust of snow, not a
Yeah.
blizzard of snow and a week of sub-freezing temperatures.
Yeah.
What about the old people? You said the middle-aged people haven't, but of the old people?
We got
They don't go on social media, so I don't get their hot takes.
So they do.
Yeah.
They're just on. They're on. Never mind. I was gonna make a joke, but
You can
I'm
say
blanking.
Facebook. It's okay, Wade.
Well, yeah, but I blanked on it, so it's not funny now. So continue.
You don't know that I stream on Facebook? Come on, man.
No. What's your channel name, please?
Well, it's definitely facebook.com/Meisker_game giveaway.
Game giveaway.
Yeah. I want to give you a free $5,000 for winning my competition giveaway.
Wow.
There's an issue with scammers.
Yeah.
Don't believe them, chat.
Okay. Cool.
I'm sure the
Wait,
old
you're not
people
scamming
were
me though,
like,
right?
I mean, I am, but I'm not trying to scam my viewers. I'm trying to scam the companies that give me money to do this
Yeah. Okay.
by selling my viewers information to them. Listen, old people didn't like the snow either. I can say definitively.
All right then. Well, the reason I bring it up is because I wanted to talk about. Did you see that one tweet from that company? It was an energy company in Texas, and they said, actually, let me see if I can pull it up. I think it was CPA Energy or something like that. CPS Energy, CPS. What was it? Yeah, it was CPS. So they made this tweet a few days ago that really riled a lot of people up, and for reasons that will become apparent as soon as I
Did they delete it?
find it. They might have deleted it. Let me just see if someone's let me see if someone's got the image of
Oh,
it.
I'm already seeing that may have been fake.
That may have been fake. Oh,
I don't know if we're talking about the same thing.
the 10-year spreading over. Oh, is that not it? Is that fake? Are we?
Oh, maybe not. Share your thing, Mark.
Well,
I don't know
haven't.
what I found.
I haven't found it yet. What are you looking at?
I have found from February 18th an article that says, fact check, viral statement claiming to come from Texas Power Company is fake.
People were faking a tweet from
No,
what's his
no.
face?
This is
Used
not.
car salesman guy too, right?
No, this is not fake because this is an actual tweet on their Twitter account, CPS Energy. The question for them was, is CPSE going to provide payment relief to customers? And the answer was, we understand that it would be unacceptable to have customers bear the costs on their monthly bill because of the power outages. A lot of people's like energy bills skyrocketing. Some people had like $5,000 just for the month. But they said it would be unacceptable to have customers bear the cost of the monthly bill, so we are working diligently to find ways to spread those costs to 10 years or longer to make it more affordable. And
No.
and understandably, people weren't relieved when they heard that. They didn't just breathe a sigh. They didn't go, whoo, glad 10 years. All right, that'll make it much more affordable. Yeah, no, how about a mortgage to pay off your energy bill? And it just painted this picture of like, holy shit, that just sucks. Like,
Yeah, good God.
I've got nothing because I don't know. I try not to speak about things that I'm completely ignorant about. But I don't know the whole like Texas, its own power grid and whatnot. Like it's from what I've seen, they have their own and whatever. They don't want federal regulations. Whatever. I don't know enough about it. But the fact that people who suffer the most, like the people who not only had intermittent power outages, but lack of heating, inability to go get groceries, stuff like that. Like there were people that died during this, and it's just like, and then at the end of it, you get a huge fucking bill that your power company is willing to work with you to pay it over 10 years time. And it's just like, man, just the individual person in Texas is getting screwed over like crazy. And yeah, that's just all. I mean, that's the story. What do you guys think about it?
I mean, I love to think that the person who crafted that from the energy company was like, you know, what can we do? Well, let's do everything we can. We're gonna work with them. It'll be fine. And then they tweeted that out, and everyone was like, "I'm sorry, what?" And they were so proud of how compassionate they were.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the company is eating a lot of money in the damage that has happened, in the work that they've had to do. I'm sure that they are hurting as well financially.
Oh yeah.
But holy shit.
Yeah.
Is that just the terrible cherry on top of what has been an extremely tough and traumatic and death-defying, I think, from anecdote, reports I've been seeing on social media, people have come close to, running out of food, being in a house that is sub-freezing indoors because houses in Texas don't have insulation and they didn't have power for like days on end. I'm sure someone hopefully is working to make sure that there's a better solution than that. But the ultimate thing would be if they get that all set up, that's the plan going forward. And then they're like, oh yeah, and there's a little interest on there. We're financing it for you. So
yeah.
But like, God damn.
Yeah, it's one of those things. And I remember something similar happened, not similar, but a moment where the price of energy skyrocketed for one reason or another. It happened in California. I think rolling blackouts around San Francisco or something like that caused spot prices of energy to skyrocket, which bankrupted many businesses almost overnight, because suddenly they had to pay, because a lot of energy companies, they act as intermediaries between the people that actually make the energy and delivering it to customers, and then they buy energy, which is a very strange concept. You buy by the volt or amp or something like that, by the watt.
Wasn't it by the kilowatt hour?
Kilowatt hour, and like, you send electrons my way and I'll pay for it. Like, when you think about it, it's very strange. But and that's what's happening in Texas. Like, all of a sudden, because of supply and demand in the market, all of a sudden demand goes up, and then all the companies supplying are like, ooh, yay, prices. We get to sell at higher prices. It doesn't matter what people are going through. They're like, yay. And then the intermediary companies, which I imagine this company is like, well, what the fuck do we do? Like, we got, like, if suddenly no one's going to pay their bill, which at the end of the day, if 1 million people decide not to pay their bill, what are you gonna do about it? Like, you can't arrest everyone because they like it's 1 million people. Like, so a company just kind of just explodes, and then less people have a choice because only a few companies survive, and then suddenly there's less opportunity, and the free market has won. You know what I mean?
Well, and another talking point about this. So over the summer of 2020, there were huge fires in California. They affected my area.
Yeah.
They affected down by you too. And in California, fires are annual. Like, fire season is a thing. And PG&E in our area, their grid is just a mess. Their grid was not prepared. I think it's different. This is like a once in a century, once in a lifetime snowstorm. I don't think the grids in Texas necessarily need to be prepared for unbelievable blizzards to happen. But I've been hearing, and maybe it's again anecdotal more than verified factual, been hearing that the grids in Texas were woefully poorly kept up. They were cheaped out, and this is a problem in California too. The electric company who's responsible for upkeeping the grid so that it is more stable and more resilient cheaps out at every corner possible.
Yeah.
They avoid doing things, upgrading things. They put band-aids on when a full fix is needed long term.
Yeah.
And this is not a thing that's exclusive to California or Texas, but utilities companies get away with all kinds of shit, cutting corners. And then the unstable grid causes blackouts, rolling blackouts, whatever. If there's any kind of weather, it hurts. It all hurts as the consumers. And then when that happens, the company's like, "Oh, we got to fix it. We got to fix it now. We got no choice." They just charge the consumers. Like, where is all this money going? People pay out their buttholes for utilities. Where does all the money go that is supposed to be going to upkeep the power grid, to maintain water systems, to upgrade and modernize these systems? I have no idea how it works, but I've seen so many reports of these sort of like big utilities companies mysteriously making millions and millions of dollars off of consumers who have, it's basically a forced monopoly in a lot of places.
Yeah.
But then they don't spend it on anything that would actually benefit the consumer. They have no motivation. It's easier to take the fines and do the work after the fact because it costs them less or as much as it would have cost, and maybe they get away with it. Maybe they get to take a little bit more profit out. It's crazy. It seems like absolute bullshit.
Well, I mean, that's the issue with things like electricity and water. Those kind of things, especially nowadays with electricity, maybe 100 years ago you could have argued it, but now it's essential. Like, it is essential for people to have electricity, for people to have access to power. It's okay that it's paid for. I'm not saying it should be free, because one way or another it has to be paid for, whether through taxes or by just paying the company straight up. But people need it. Same with water. And when you have a grid that is entirely run by companies that are only there for profit with as minimal regulation as possible, then you get companies that will cut costs wherever possible to make more profit. And you can't blame a company for that. They're a corporation. That's what they do. We've talked about this before. Corporations exist to make money. That's the point. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just what they are. But unfortunately, when it comes down to providing things that are, like we said, essential for people, especially in a state where the majority of the heating systems might be electrical or not as robust, and if you don't winterize your grid because no one told you you had to, then you run into problems like this. Most regulations, are written in blood. And the reason I say that is most regulations exist because previously, when there wasn't that regulation, someone died or many people died. And that's the cost. And when you get to the point where you run into a problem where people die, you want to make sure that doesn't happen again. And not only that, people don't forget that it happened. Like, it's why school buses stop at railroad crossings every time, so that no bus full of kids gets hit by a train. That's why. It may be, you could look at it like, okay, well, buses stopping at train tracks, it loses efficiency. They burn a little gas. Someone could come up with a spreadsheet of being like, well, all these buses stopping at railroad crossing, it costs like 1% more gas per trip every day. This is millions we could save if buses don't stop at railroad crossings. But then, in one freak accident on one random day, one train is going to be there when one bus goes across. There's going to be a signal failure. There's going to be some kind of error. The bus driver didn't hear it. And then a bus full of kids is going to get hit by a train. And that's the line that we just as a people have to decide, like, we're not going to ever allow this to happen, or we're going to do everything that we can to make sure this thing doesn't happen. And ideally, that's a thing that most people could agree on. And I think that in this situation with Texas, what the problem is, like, people need to stop looking at like the price of maintaining stuff like this. Like, you have to maintain it because if you don't, other people might die, and the risk of that outweighs any cost saving that you could possibly have.
When did the thing with the buses having to stop at railroad crossings start? Because I feel like whenever I was really young, I remember us like going over railroad tracks relatively quick and like bumping up into the air. So it had to be after we were there, right?
I have no idea.
As long as I can remember in my lifetime, all the buses I was ever on stopped at railroad tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you still bump up in the air even if you go over at 5 miles an hour in a bus. They're basically on leaf springs. They bounce like crazy.
Yeah.
It's awesome that at one point in life we prioritized children's lives whenever things went wrong.
I mean, but that's the thing, though. Having this conversation, and this makes me feel like a jaded, cynical douchebag, but like having this sort of conversation, it cuts both ways because, like we've talked about, companies' drive is to make money. So that includes companies don't care about their employees, the rules necessarily. If they make more money paying a fine than following the rules, they don't care about human life necessarily. Some of them do if they have leadership that does, but they don't inherently. But in the same way, regulations do not always care about what's best either. I feel like no one is in this with pure intentions. Like you said, Mark, regulations are often derived because someone dies, a large group of people dies, some catastrophe has happened, and government is like, oh God, okay, we can't let this happen ever again. But that, over time, that becomes bloated. I don't think anyone would argue with safety for school buses stopping and checking railroad crossings, but I think there are regulations that exist where you would look at that objectively and think to yourself, what possible good does this serve other than money in the pockets of the, whatever regulatory body?
Yeah.
Why isn't anyone good? Maybe that's a dumb question to ask. Maybe that's naive, but is anyone who's actually good interested in politics, or the only people who go into politics in
Money
it for
and power.
themselves and in it for the power? How do we get people who good in the right place?
We don't make it where you have to buy your way
impossible.
into it.
It seems impossible.
Honestly, people have to buy their way into it. The amount of money people have to spend on advertising, and if they can't afford it out of pocket, it has to be backed. And if you're getting backing, the kind of backing that you need to advertise to get elected, I mean, who's going to pay for that other than people that have interests in you being elected? And if you're going into office with owing favors for people that are paying for your campaign, you have to deliver on those promises before you care about the promises to the actual people who elect you. Because if you're going to run for re-election, you have to be able to afford your campaign again. It all comes down to, in my opinion, unless you're already rich enough to pay for your own campaign, which I don't know of anyone who actually just does that out of pocket typically. It's the corporations who back you. It's like, oh, well, guess I've got to foot this in the bill. Do we need to save the children from trains? Yes, but only if we also give a tax break to,
only if we save them with wholesome Heinz brands train signs.
Yeah. I mean, shit. Honestly, it's all about the money and the money trails and the people who elect you. If you're the only game in town getting the money for advertising, it's like no one knows who else to vote for. It's like, well, I saw this person say something I agreed with, so I guess I'll vote for them.
Look.
Whereas if you just see Wade Barnes on the ticket and you have no who the fuck that is or what they stand for, it's like, well, I guess I'll vote for the guy I at least heard say words rather than this random name on the ballot that I know nothing about.
I can only imagine how many people look at the ballot and they're like, this one, he sounds like an asshole. This one, whatever. I saw a sign. This guy.
That's pretty much it, man. This is why, and I'm glad you brought this up. This is why I would like to present a full rendition of my overhaul of the whole political process. I'm here to pave the way. Have you ever seen the movie The Hunger Games? It's an obscure one, right? Okay.
I guess I've heard of it. I don't know. It's like an indie movie or something?
Yeah, it's like an indie film. It's not it's small, but it's pretty good. I would recommend it. So each state is they have these districts, right? So there's 2 selections, right, from each state. The senators will be those selections, right?
Oh, okay.
And then they get in a big dome thing and they all fight to the death. And the winner gets to make a law and then they will die. Sound good?
You gotta really want that law to exist.
You gotta really want it, right? You gotta really want it.
This is the jaded part of me, because already in that system, I'm like, okay, so the corporations create low-income baby farms where they basically buy people's children to raise them for these Hunger Games, and then they just they pay the families outright, or maybe they pay the children and the parents sacrifice themselves. They train them, they arm them, they back them, and then that's how you get laws passed. Is you basically buy human sacrifice.
It's
in a different way than they currently buy human sacrifice in the American system.
It's a perfect system. It can't be. No one can find a flaw in this entire system. There's no Hunger Games.
We could just keep things as is. Honestly, just screw the people over more. But maybe one day a year, we just everyone who makes a certain income just goes. We lock ourselves, or they lock themselves away, depending on where the line is drawn. The rest of us are just allowed to go break whatever laws we want, go steal, go kill, just, get all of our aggression out.
Yeah.
And then the next day we'll go back to behaving ourselves and giving, everything we do back to the rich, and we just won't really get anything out of it. But you know what? Every day we can think about the fact that we're only 364 days away, or 363, however much it is, from being able to get our aggression out again on the people who aren't responsible for our pain.
I like that. It's like you're pushing out all of the bad feelings out in one day. You could call it the push.
The push.
I think the push is a good. Yeah. Push them all out of the push.
Yeah, you push all the bad emotions out, and all that's left is purity.
Yeah.
You just get the push. Yeah, I think that's catchy. I think that'll
the purity
catch on.
push.
Yeah, the purity push. The PP. You got to get PP. The PP.
I like that.
It's PP day, guys. It's PP day. And then no, not the puss. No. It's different.
That's a different. That comes either before or after PP day.
The puss.
You
gotta get all the bad stuff out. The bad stuff is the puss.
Yeah,
that definitely comes after PP day.
Yeah. Well, what I've always thought about, like, with public office. In seriousness, I've always thought that public service should actually be a service, and it should not be fun, enjoyable, make you powerful. It should be a burden. It should be cumbersome. Yeah. Like it should be something that is so serious that the office should be set up so that people have to take it seriously. You don't get to go anywhere. You live in a tiny building in the Capitol. It's like a prison sentence, but you're there to make laws, and that's it. You give up everything else. You give up your assets, you give up your home, you give up everything because you're gonna serve. You're gonna serve for the people. And it's like there needs to be more weight in the actual service part of it, because I have a pretty firm belief that the majority of people, like, if there were no political parties, the majority of people, like 90% plus, want what's best for everyone else around them. Like, there are very few terrible, evil people in the world. I believe that. There are many, but it's a minority. And I believe that the majority of people actually want to do. All the disagreement should be about is how that's done. But the idea that if someone disagrees with you in that aspect, they are your enemy, is just the most terrible, like, programming that has been infused into the entire system. It's awful. It's terrible that people think that just because you disagree with someone, they are inherently your enemy. Now there are people that are just terrible people. I'm not ignoring that fact. But the majority of people actually want to work to better society. It's just how that's done that is the disagreement, or at least
they just don't run for public office.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's impossible. I think even if there is a big portion of our population that would be interested in serving, it's anything beyond like local government, which is still a whole parlor show of trading favors and owing things to people, and basically being, not representing any constituency, just representing whoever got you the office. But state and federal positions it's impossible. You couldn't, a humble and sincere person couldn't serve in the federal government, couldn't serve in Congress, no matter how badly they wanted to. And I, maybe this is again too pessimistic, but I don't think even if someone got picked or whatever, they grassroots started a movement, wanted to serve their district, and got some support and actually grew a campaign, that would ultimately lead to them still being in the pocket of companies, super PACs, the party, all these people that steal the interest away from the actual humans, who are supposed to be the ones who get people elected, and thus supposed to be the ones whose interest is being represented. But both of those are completely destroyed by the way the system is right now. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
exactly. I genuinely agree with your idea, Mark, that it should be. Other countries have like mandatory military service. I don't necessarily like that, because I think that is kind of a burden, especially if it's mandatory service and you have to serve in like a combat area, combat zone or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot to ask. Mandatory government service, I don't think is too much to ask. You want to live in a free country, you want to live in a democracy, you want to have a strong, society where you get healthcare, you get utilities, things are stable, things are good.
Yeah.
You have to serve in your government, state, local, federal, wherever. Mandatory service, no six-figure salary, no huge campaigning. I think that'd potentially be a great system. I have no idea how it would work practically,
I think that we already do it with jury duty. There is a civil service in jury duty where people are randomly selected because we want to have people be represented by a jury of their peers. You know what I mean? To be judged by people that are people. I feel like there's a way where the House of Representatives or whatever body of government could be, whether on the state level, local level, city level, or national level, could just be randomly selected people. And when you go, you serve. There's no election process. You are picked and you serve. You do 2 years and then you're done. And it's like you go in, you go out. There's really no special interest. Yeah, you might get a fucking idiot in there, in the House of Representatives, but God, I'm so glad our current system doesn't allow fucking idiots into politics, So
yeah,
it's not like
that's a big sacrifice, because currently you don't get any pieces of shit in office.
Yeah, definitely not.
So I don't know, maybe that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm crazy. How about I'll just stop, you know what I mean? Whatever.
Vote for me. I want super packs. I had a 6-pack once, but I was like 8th grade. But I mean, I'd go for a super pack.
Super pack, is that like?
Is it like 8
like 13
packs?
Instead of 12?
Oh, yeah. It actually runs down both your
like
legs.
A baker's pack.
It just keeps going down. You just get these weird bumps all up and down. So.
That happens
Pretty cool.
anyway. There's a cream my doctor prescribed.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that at least the weather's starting to get better. I mean, I know people had it real bad all over, but I gotta say, our dogs pooped on the sidewalk and I had to pick it up. It's real tough here too.
Yeah.
Got any broken bones to complain about?
No, but to keep up with the Joneses, I guess I'll have to go run into a wall or something later.
Mm-hmm.
I can't let Mark be the only one getting that sweet hospital money.
Getting the hospital money?
Yeah, get that sweet hospital money from those hospital videos.
I did not monetize my hospital videos.
Your accountant must be brilliant to figure out like how much you're gonna spend in hospital bills versus how much you make from like making so many videos. Is it like a 3 videos to 1 hospital visit? Like, what's the proportion?
Dude, I'm gonna do a video later that's looking at broken foot memes. So
Okay, so that's at least. Is that 2 or is that 3?
I don't know. It's 2 to 3. I feel like it depends on how long.
Social media post. I know that Twitter post had to be worth a pretty penny too. So
I had to re-download Twitter just to tweet.
Just to make that sweet Twitter money.
Yeah, the Twitter money that's rolling in.
Are you cashing in? So I just did a Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship on Thursday, but like, they didn't offer me hospital money, so I got to get onto this hospital money.
Yeah, I mean.
Wait, did you seriously not
vlogs.
have Twitter on your phone?
No.
I don't have Discord on my phone.
Is that like an experiment, or is that how you live?
Dude, I don't use Twitter. Like I find that Twitter.
But you don't browse Twitter?
If I do, I go to the mobile website.
Weird.
Well, I mean, just like for me personally, I don't find a lot of value in me having Twitter unless it's just to get a quick message out like that. But I find that browsing Twitter just makes me upset, like angry, and like I don't need that. I don't need that at all. I feel like it's a very non-objective place to get information, and I feel like it's so loaded with what people want you to think.
Twitter's the new Tumblr. It's just it's not fun anymore. It's not fun at all.
Whenever conversations like this spark up, it makes me feel like I use social media wrong. What exactly, if you were gonna browse Twitter in the way that is like unhealthy for your mental health, what are you doing? What are you scrolling through the people you follow? Are you scrolling through like friends?
Any conversation that happens under people I follow or topics I'm interested in messages. It's like, it's not usually the people I follow. Every now and then some people I follow are way more opinionated than they should be, but usually it's the conversations that happen underneath. It's like a thread. It's like, oh, this could be an interesting thread, and then it immediately just becomes like a shitstorm of just nastiness. People like immediately like, I don't know how you get on this like cancel train of like anytime anyone like so and so said that they didn't like biscuits with butter, oh, end their lives. And it's like, well, maybe just they never tried it with butter. I don't know. Can we take a breath before? I don't know. It's just like the immediate, just like, I don't know, there's just a mob running around, and it's the mob that finds every tweet and manages to ruin any kind of interesting conversation that could follow it.
Well, I mean, it's also
I guess I don't see that. I don't understand. Sorry, go ahead, Mark. I asked a question that I prevented you from answering.
No, it's totally fine. I mean, I'm in the same boat. It's usually conversations, but I also imagine that it is largely based on who you follow or what you're looking at. So, but I know that I could reconfigure my follows, but I also know that Twitter's main usefulness is as a communication tool, and I have my Reddit customized to the subreddits that provide me with like articles and science and technology and informational things. So I could have Twitter be the informational platform, but I don't, and maybe I should change that.
I guess people are, this conversation comes up and people are like, oh, I got deleted my Facebook years ago. It's so toxic. And I don't go on Twitter anymore. And like, I know that exists, but I feel like there's such an easy solution to that. I don't understand. And like you're saying, Wade, it does in the replies, like, yeah, it gets toxic. I don't go into the replies. I basically look at my friends' tweets and my friends' replies to my friends' tweets. I don't go into the replies of the normies and the chads on Twitter. I don't, like, that's a terrible place. People always talk about it like, oh, social media is just bad for you. Like, you can't go out there without seeing stuff that, like, makes you feel terrible or makes you angry. Yeah, you can. You totally can. You know how many people I deleted from my Facebook life? You know how many people, including like long-standing friends of family and stuff, that I've muted or straight up unfriended because they post a bunch of shit that did piss me off or that I wanted to reply to that would have caused a whole bunch of, drama or whatever would have been inappropriate. You unfollow those, you mute those, you block words on Twitter. It's possible to create a social media where it's about your friends' posts, pictures of animals. Like, that's my life. I don't get mad. I browse Twitter every day. I don't get mad at it, but it's carefully crafted that way.
If my Twitter was more for personal use, I could probably do that easier, but sometimes it's industry people that I'm just like, occasionally they'll reach out or something, or they'll post something like interesting, like they'll be advertising a game or something I care to like maybe see. But like, I'll give an example of when things really sucked. Like last year, it was like June or July, there was the big movement of like people calling out creators that were doing terrible things and stuff. And I was with the company OPG, and the CEO Omid got called out for being a terrible person. And some of the people I followed were talking, like, I didn't find out from like someone messaging me or anything else. I found out by logging onto Twitter and seeing everyone like adding this person that led the company I was a part of. And it was like, what? Excuse me? And I was trying to like do any kind of research to see what was going on. And already there were tweets from some industry people that are like, any creator that's still there and hasn't left cares about money, and that's it. They don't care who gets stepped on along the way. They are a terrible person. And it's like, no one, like, that was so stressful because it immediately put pressure on me to just be like, all right, I'm out. But what those people don't consider is the fact that we had contracts, right? We all signed a contract, and there are ramifications. There's legal things that happen if you just terminate a contract and just walk away. I didn't have a chance to contact a lawyer and be like, hey, is anything bad going to happen if I literally just leave, cancel my contract? Like, what happens in that case? Like, can I do that? What do I need to do that? Can he just be like thrown out of the company? Can we do? There was no time for any of that. It was immediately like, you all leave. If I see your name still on their list tomorrow morning, I'm unfollowing you. You're a terrible person. And there's a lot of moments like that where like people you don't expect, people that usually don't jump out and say crazy things, will just be on board with their torch and their pitchfork in hand. And it's like, all of a sudden I was in the middle of a witch hunt, and it's like, I don't know. So we all had to like hire attorneys after we left to try to help clean up the mess. It was a fucking nightmare. And it was super stressful because it's like, one, that was a big source of income. Two, we had no idea what kind of ramifications there were for just walking away. Ultimately, what ended up happening, I don't know if I'm allowed to share all this, but oh well, is the company like completely is gone, like bankrupted itself. And there were several sponsorships I did that I didn't even get paid for because of the way we all just bolted and left and we didn't get to handle things like the legally correct way, because social media and the shitstorm around like immediately make a knee-jerk reaction, do it, knee-jerk reaction, come on guys, we're going to the gym, knee-jerk reaction, like could have completely fucked me. But it's so stressful to log on because of that experience. But also just every now and then you'll log on, you're like, man, I'm just gonna see what's going on online, and like, you know, there's just someone being called out for doing something horrible. It's like horrible, stressful news. I don't know, and you never know where it's gonna come from. And sometimes it's just like, I don't really use social media all that much anymore. I'll make a post. I very rarely browse Twitter at all because I just don't want to see who's being canceled today, who did something horrible, who hates this person for that reason. Like if I see a game update, or if I see someone like, hey, I got partnered on Twitch, like those kind of things are great. I love seeing like positive things, and I understand the world's not all happy and positive, but God, it gets depressing seeing these things, and it gets super stressful whenever like this big cancel mob's running around, because like I don't want to find out that somebody I work with has done something horrible, and it's like, well, I guess I got to cut Bob out of my life because he bought Apple brand apples instead of, and their CEO is a horrible person. I can't believe Bob bought Apple brand apples after their company did this. Like, we don't all fucking know everything.
Honestly, so like I get why that's personally stressful, and that's part of why I try and make my socials not focus on that sort of stuff. But I don't know if this will make you feel better or worse. All that stuff is there anyway, right? Regardless of if you know about it. All that stuff that happened with OPG and all the stuff surrounding other like abusers and stuff, that has all already happened, and it's all playing out on social media. But like, I guess I would rather be aware of what has happened so that I can choose to act how I would want to act. I would choose. But
there's no choice when the mob's after you like that, though. There's no choice.
So fuck those people. Unless you are the abuser, you are being called out. I understand that people want immediate action, and the idea of cancel culture moves really quickly. That is a mob that can't do anything. That is a mob that will yell until they find the next thing to yell about. And that is going to happen. I mean, was any of it specifically directed at you, or was it in general?
It was kind of in general, but like it was from more than one person that I follow that I consider to be more industry related people. I mean, these are people who work for different gaming companies and organizations that probably shouldn't be acting that way. But as soon as anything social justice jumps up, they are immediately like knee-jerk reaction thing. And it's more like, I feel like the court of public opinion means more for our careers than a lot of them, because it's not like we're going to a normal 9-to-5 job. Like, if everyone has an opinion of us, true or false, like the truth of their opinion doesn't really matter so much as if a lot of people believe that I'm a horrible person because I didn't leave OPG the day that all this stuff came out, that could be the end of my career, assuming it's a big enough thing. That one probably not, but you know, if everyone assumes I did something horrible, if somebody makes like an allegation against me or something, or someone's like, wait, I saw you on TV, you robbed a bank, and it just happens to be like my evil twin brother or someone that looks like me, like that opinion means more than the truth of it. And it can be very difficult to prove like something was false to the masses that don't even typically follow you. So at least in my brain, it was a moment of panic. And I think that I do think that one interaction did affect my outlook on social media in general, but also just like last year was such a rough year, and it's still rough this year. It's really, really tough to just be mentally okay at a lot of times with the pandemic, not being able to go to restaurants or see people and stuff like that. And you turn on social media, and instead of being a fun escape, it's just so much negativity. And again, like if you've managed to find a way to mute and block the right people or not follow the right people, that's fantastic. But like sometimes it comes from unexpected sources on my feed, like people that I'm used to just having positive, interesting feeds or interesting takes on things, and then all of a sudden they'll be really negative. And it's like, it's just easier for me to go on, type a post about going live or this or that, and then just turn off Twitter and not even bother looking. And then, you know, I'll still find out news either from someone else will message me like, wait, did you see this? And it's like, well, no, I intentionally try not to see that. Or my stupid phone is like, wait, you missed this important news update. There have been X amount of new COVID cases in your county. And it's like, thanks phone. I'm trying not to see these things. And I don't know. It's just, sometimes it's really difficult when you're having a tough mental health day, whenever social media just hounds you with negativity. Sorry, I keep going on these long tirades. I don't mean to be, but
No, I mean, it definitely sounds like it really impacts you. I have slightly different reasons for why I don't look at social media, not necessarily. But that whole conversation that you're bringing up we could talk for hours about that.
Yeah.
But me specifically with social media is like, I just don't do it because I generally just don't have a use for it, right? Because I don't feel the need to constantly update people on my life or what I'm doing, because I like to control that information. As far as like the drama of it goes, like it is what it is. It's not really going to stop it whether it's on Twitter or not, because it is addictive. It's addictive for people. People like to be justified and vindicated and feel like they're right. People love to feel like they're right. And the thing about a social media like Twitter is everyone can have an opinion, and everyone's opinion is right to them. So everyone gets to have this little feedback loop of being right, but then it coalesces into a big storm of everyone being all right at the same time. So really for me, it's just that I don't do it just because I don't really have a use for it. If I have a use, I will obviously post about it, like with my foot, but the negativity isn't really what gets me down, because I like to stay on top of things no matter what, positive or negative, because I feel like it's important to keep that in perspective. But with mental health, it's obviously like, if you can't look at it, then definitely don't look at it. And that's a whole nother conversation. But as far as just social media goes, that's why I don't do it, Bob.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's fair. I don't think it's a thing that's a necessity. I just have always found it pretty enjoyable for the kind of personality that I have, just to like see what's going on. I will say to Wade's point about, I don't know if it was a specific I mean, it just affected you, I guess. But in regards to sexual assault and how that plays out on Twitter, there have been many times where it's gone way beyond holding someone accountable and supporting someone who's been a victim into people, you know, assuming things, thinking they know what happened. Twitter is not a good place to get facts out. Yeah. But Twitter is a great place to be able to support people. Twitter is a great medium for someone who feels alone, a victim who maybe feels completely alone, or feels like they are in danger, or feels like they don't have the power, but they want, you know, their abuser has all the power, has all the social capital, whatever. I don't think you can blanket say that the way that, just because that does play out and people take it too far and people take it to beyond the facts and beyond what is appropriate on Twitter, I don't think you can say it's a bad thing. I think it's been an amazing thing that social media in general has allowed people to find support, to encourage them to stand up for themselves, to not just let, you know, someone who's very successful, very visible, doing this potentially to multiple people, abusers, get away with this. It's important that happens. And I don't know if social media is the best platform or the right platform for it, but like, I just want to make the counterpoint against kind of how it impacted you. I'd certainly consider that
I don't think it's a
I have no
bad
idea
thing.
what I would do if a friend, you know, someone who I play with all the time or work with closely is called out and suddenly, like, you know, who I think they are is not at all true or whatever. I don't know what I would do. I'd probably panic too. It's very stressful. But I just want to, like, just for the viewers, I want to put out there, cancel culture as a meme is more nuanced than just like, oh, cancel culture is bad, it's stupid. Holding people accountable in a public setting, trying to make sure that the facts get out, trying to support someone who has no social capital against someone who has a ton of social capital is extremely valuable and important, because otherwise, you know, a random non-famous person is never going to be able to call out a YouTuber with millions of followers, millions of people who are going to shout them down. It's just, this is something about the modern world and social media that is a benefit, but it's not good or bad exclusively. There are parts of it. It's complicated. But I just feel like I hope you both agree. I think you probably both agree that is important, but it's nuanced. It's complicated. Obviously, it has different impacts on different people.
Yeah, what it really does in social media does, because people like to look at things based on the perspectives of how things were in the past. But the problem with social media is that it completely changes the power dynamic of social structures. Because if one person, I can say whatever I want on my own. That's freedom. I can do whatever I want on my own, like to myself to an extent, obviously. But that freedom stops when it affects someone else directly. Like the old quote, I can swing my fist in the air as much as I want. My right to swing my fist in the air stops at someone else's face. You know what I mean? But with social media, it's different. And like you said, Bob, not good or bad. It's just fundamentally different. The ability for someone to be able to defend themselves in the face of someone with a larger following is a different dynamic, or someone who has power. Like, it's a different dynamic to be able to empower people like that. But with social media, it also creates counterpoints where a lot of people whose ranty, weird opinions would normally not be taken seriously suddenly have a platform. Like with flat earthers, like it's like things like social media give those voices an equal opportunity to have the same weight as other less ridiculous ideas. You know what I mean? It evens the playing field, which causes the previous playing field that had balanced itself out with pluses and minuses. There were definitely errors pre-social media. I'm not saying that it was all perfect. It definitely wasn't. But it's just changing it. And this is all part of adapting to a world that is interconnected and where social media does allow people to have the same voice no matter what. Like, a lot of people forget that there's not only different, like, opinions of people, there's entirely different demographics of people on Twitter. There's young people, there's old people, there's people of all ages, races, like everywhere across all spectrums. There's so many different people, and all have the same opportunity to have their voice heard. And that is just different. It's neither good or bad. Maybe in the end, it'll be discovered that it's more bad than good or more good than bad. It's here and it's happening, and it likely will never stop. So it's about finding what needs to be done to minimize the bad. And that's pretty much it.
I agree. I think people being able to have a platform to come out and to hold people accountable for things they've done wrong is a good thing. But it can also be overwhelming. Again, from my perspective, just every time we logged on for like 2 months, it was like someone else being called out. And I think 99% of those were all true allegations. There was one instance I know for a fact that was not, because there was actual like photo and video evidence that was timestamped that was shown to like where one allegation was proven false. It's those that scare me the most, the ones that are false. I've referenced this many times. I still recommend that you guys look at this, everyone watching too. There's a paper, a philosophical paper called On Bullshit, and it talks about truth, lies, and bullshitting as 3 different takes on truth. And one thing about social media that is scary is people that are just bullshitters or liars. They have a lot more power, and the social media mob tends to jump on anything, whether it's true, false, whatever. If something seems like, yeah, get them, it just seems like people jump right on it. And again, like 99% of the time, that's okay. But like the 1% of the time, that's very scary. Or in instances where there's a convoluted process, like again, from personal experience, the contract I had with OPG, it's like, if your name is still on their website tomorrow, then I know that you're a terrible person. And it's like, well, or I don't want to put me and my family in financial jeopardy for the rest of our lives because we jumped out of a contract the day that something went wrong, rather than taking the proper legal process to get out of it. But you know, I guess that we're not caring about that aspect, and just stuff like that. But overall, the positive outcomes of people being held accountable that were previously seen as untouchable, I do think outweighs my personal issue. It's just, I do think, like Mark and like you guys were saying, there's a good, there's a bad. I'm not sure which one weighs heavier. It's hard to say, but there's definitely scary aspects. And whether or not it's good that people are being called out, I think it's overall good. It still can be very mentally draining whenever you are having, like I said, a rough mental health day. You go to log on because you have to do something for work, or you just want to get an update, or you just want to see how someone's doing, etc. And your entire feed is just so much negativity, and it's like there's no way to fully dodge that. Not that I know of, at least, other than just not engaging or not looking at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I do not use social media like I used to. I used to be on Twitter all the time. I'd have like 8 Twitter tabs open. I'd be browsing through. Sometimes I still have a bunch of tabs open, but typically it's because I post an update and I literally read replies to either like Mark, your foot tweet, or my response, Bob replied to that. Like I'll look at those responses, or I'll look at like a video game thing and I'll look at the replies to that. But generally speaking, I try not to look at my personal feed. I try not to look at the Explore tab. It's like my notifications I look at. Everything else I just try to ignore, just to keep myself from being bogged down, especially with streaming. I feel like with streaming, being live and trying to keep like energy and like happiness up for, it's not like I'm trying to fake it or anything, but if you go into a stream with negative attitude, it will very quickly show. It's very hard to go for 4, 5, 6 hours whenever you're just not feeling it and be like, yeah, woo, Valheim, when on the inside all you can think about is this horrible post you read, and you're just sour, you're irritable. It's very hard to overcome that stuff. So just trying to keep myself from being like while live means I cannot spend time on social media. I can't risk just being torn down before I start.
That's valid. I've got nothing to add to that. I mean, that's perfectly valid. I don't think that you're wrong in thinking that, because it comes down to everyone's personal need, right? If you need something else, I think that's, with the advent of technology, there's many things that are going to change in terms of how people communicate. But at the end of the day, it's still people, right? That's always going to be the common denominator. It's humans. And humans don't change very quickly, or sometimes they don't change at all, but they can adapt, and adaptation does occur, and we will adapt to these changes in technology, and there's many, many conversations and many, many, many discussions to be had about how people will be able to adapt, or what things we can do to facilitate these adaptations. But the important thing to remember is that it's not going to go away. Like
somebody, I want to address this topic. Someone just said that it's a privilege to opt out of difficult topics. How do you feel about that statement? Because that's something I see a lot, where it's like, I just need to take a moment away from this. And some people are like, well, some people can never get away from that. But there's a lot of different topics. And just because some people are permanently attached to one doesn't mean everyone's permanently attached to all of them. But like that statement, I see it a lot. I feel it. And anytime I say something like, I need to get a break from this before I go live and stuff, people are like, well, it's a privilege that you even can. I don't know how I overall feel about that statement.
I mean, this is the first time I'm thinking about it, but generally, I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think it's not it. Well, so this is the thing. Privilege is thrown around a lot. Like if someone's, if someone says to me that I have white privilege, it doesn't mean that they think that I am necessarily racist. I feel like people hear this term a lot and they're like, oh, you think I have privilege? So what, you think that means I hate you? You think that means I'm a bad person? You think that means I'm whatever the topic of conversation is? The privilege exists whether you care about it or not, or acknowledge it. Privilege exists because of, you are who you are. There are people in the world who cannot turn off their connection to, they are the race that they are. Maybe they are a black person, so they can't just be like, ooh, I need to tune out of this Black Lives Matter stuff for a minute. It's heavy. Like, for some people, depending on what the topic is, that is inescapable. So it is. I think I'm not going to apply it to you necessarily, but I think I have a lot of privilege because a lot of the horrible stuff that people have been dealing with, especially in the last year, with coronavirus, with racial issues in this country, I can literally just not look at it. Like, it doesn't impact me directly, but that at the same time doesn't mean that it stops to exist. And it's hard because even if you want to commit your life to being an activist, you do get burned out. Like there's only so much energy you can expend on whatever your efforts towards a certain topic, your focus, your thoughts about it. You can get burned out and need to take some time to recover. And it's I feel conflicted about it because I am privileged and I totally do that. I totally tune in and out of different things, like what's been happening in Texas. I followed that a little bit, but there are people who, you know, are trapped with no electricity or were in freezing temperatures. They couldn't take a minute. That was their whole life. I think that is a privilege, but that doesn't mean that you have an accompanying obligation to always be invested in it. You no one has the bandwidth for that. No one has the bandwidth to care about everything all the time completely. That's too much for any person, no matter how devoted you are to a cause. That's a lot to ask, and then it's too much for any person to sustain. But it does mean, you know, you have to acknowledge, okay, it's a privilege that I can just sort of tune this out. Is this something that I should put effort into supporting? Is this something I should support with my actions, with my money, if I'm going to donate money? Is this something that I should care more about? Maybe it affects me in ways I don't know. You just have to be aware of it. I don't think it means it's necessarily a bad thing. Everyone has, well, I don't know if everyone, but a lot of people have privileges like that, whether you're aware of them or not. It doesn't mean that it's bad, but it's something to be aware of. I 100% agree with that idea, that you have to acknowledge and you have to think about, like, am I being an asshole right now, overlooking this thing that's impacting my friends or my family? It's impacting my community. Is this something I should be invested in, even though I can tune it out and I have? Is that a bad thing? Am I missing, am I missing something I should be a part of?
Yeah.
And it's hard to deal with, but privilege definitely exists in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything that you said. There's certain levels of things that are affected by just your ability to determine your own life, right? So, like, if, say, a white person, if someone says to, like, oh, you have privilege because you're white, and they're like, okay, sure, and that is their right to go, no, okay, whatever. It's their right, because they are their own person. That's like the give and take with freedom. Now, because of the complexities of social structures, that response can elicit like various different chains of responses that occur. Some people who are racist might celebrate that. Some people who are trying to change the world for the better or for the betterment of them or their people could disagree with that. And the effects of that are too numerous to even calculate. But all it comes down to is just like, everyone's moral compass is different. And the only thing that I can do as an individual is try to make a net positive out of my life in accordance with my own moral compass. And the thing about me even saying I want to make a net positive out of my life, someone else will think that everything I do to make a net positive is a net negative to them. Like it's always a give and take. And I'm not saying that everyone's on a level playing field. Let me get that very clear. There are people that are distinctly wrong. If you're racist, I fucking hate you. That's pretty much it. But at the same time, when it comes down to those conversations that happen about recognizing privilege, I personally believe that you should, like Bob said, like evaluate the privileges that you have. It's hard to dedicate brain power to that. It is. It's hard to think about these parts of your life because you've never had to be confronted by it. You've never had to, if you have privilege, you probably don't realize it because you've never had to question it. It's a given. It's a privilege. It's just the way it is. So it's hard to change your perspectives. We as people have a difficult time to see things from a full 360-degree orbit, but it doesn't mean that it's not worth doing and just making people aware of it, even if at the time you make someone aware of it and they go like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, it puts it in their head, the possibility. And I think that at the end of the day, just more awareness, more self-awareness, more awareness of self and more awareness of one's own place in society is important. Self-reflection is essential for people to grow. And I think that, you know, I don't have a conclusion to this. I'm just agreeing with Bob with more
No, you're
rants.
fine.
Yeah.
I want to tack this part on. I agree about the privilege thing 100%. But people are also typically very big advocates, especially lately, of mental health, taking care of mental health. And I have a lot of friends and people close to me that deal with high amounts of anxiety, and just I'm very fortunate I don't deal with that. I've had a couple of like anxiety moments where, you know, like when the house was flooding with the Drowned Man series, I feel like that was stress and anxiety. I don't know the difference between the two, honestly, stress and anxiety. I don't know which is which, but it felt like I was dealing with every day. It was just, I was super stressed out. I felt like the world was collapsing. Finances were a disaster. Just the house it was like everything was falling apart. It was awful. But typically from day to day, I don't just have like anxiety creep in and ruin my day. Molly deals with anxiety, and she'll be fine. And then all of a sudden anxiety will just hit her. And it's like, it looks like she got hit by a train, the way like all of a sudden her demeanor will just change when anxiety like kicks in. And there are moments where people with anxiety, including Molly, et cetera, just need like, they're just like, I just need a getaway. I just need to mentally get away for a while. I feel like I'm panicking. I just need a moment. And it's people that deal with that kind of stuff. It's pretty common. It seems like a lot of people online deal with anxiety, and people are talking about it all the time. And whenever people are dealing with stuff like that and needing to step away, it just feels really shitty whenever someone's like, oh, it's good you can step away, check your privilege. And it's like, well, their mental health, I mean, their mental well-being literally depends on them just getting, I don't fully understand it. I've never dealt with anxiety like that, but like being told that sentence compacts it and makes it so much worse. I have seen her and other people crumble when they're like being told, like they're being guilted for having anxiety and just like needing to take mental care of themselves for a moment so they don't like have a breakdown. And it just feels super, super shitty. Like I get the sentiment of it, I do, but it's also this general sweeping generalization of like, everyone just check your privilege, when in fact, not everyone is on the same mental health playing field either. And being told like, you know, you can step away, you're lucky you can. And it's like, well, everyone can from different issues. Sure, there's some issues I'll never understand. As a cis white male, there are issues I will never understand fully because I will never experience them. But people that are trans deal with different issues than people that are black, that they'll deal with different issues than people that are female or Hispanic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we all can kind of step away from one of these issues, I imagine, versus others. But just like throwing that into people's face that are already dealing with anxiety, again, it's a personal connection for me because I know people and my own wife deals with anxiety. So it's one of those, it's like, it's a triggering phrase for me because I agree with the sentiment. But when it comes to people around me who are battling with mental health issues, and then on top of that, they're guilted for needing to take a mental health break, that also feels wrong to me. And the people that are like, check your privilege, I don't think they consider other people's mental health. I think they just see a white person and they're like, you are lucky you can do, like, you know, like, again, cis white male, I'm the epitome of privileged. But like, it's not me I'm worried about. It's the people that are dealing with other things that maybe they don't want to come out and talk about. But then on top of this, they are being hounded for not like speaking up more. And it's like, one, not all of us have an opinion on every issue. There's some issues I don't know. I have not done the research. I've not experienced it. I should. I need to. Like when Black Lives Matter was a thing, I started supporting it. I still have links up and everything, but I didn't know. You know, I didn't know what to say. I had never spoken out on issues. I had stayed silent for so long on these kinds of things because one, it was super uncomfortable for me. I was scared of trying to dabble. I was afraid of putting my foot in my mouth and saying the wrong thing. But like,
I feel like there's a distinction to be drawn here that's important because I think you are on
Black Lives Matter is still a thing. Yes, I agree.
Exactly right with the mental health issue. But that, I honestly feel like that connects right back into what we were talking about with social media. I think people don't consider that there's a person on the other end of the screen. I think it's completely fair to decide when you need mental health breaks, to decide what you need to do to take care of yourself. And I think people forget that we can't know what's going on with other people. People on social media may see a post and decide they know what's happening, decide they need to judge. because they know all the facts, like you're saying, and you can't judge. You can never know why or when another person may need to step away from something to take care of themselves, to feel safe or comfortable in their own head, in their own mind. And people want to make that judgment all the time. And sometimes, like, the thing about that is it cuts both ways. Sometimes people will just hurl that, maybe that specific phrase, check your privilege, or other phrases. They'll just hurl stuff at people thinking they know what's happening. Sometimes people probably have used that as a defense mechanism for themselves. Something comes up, an issue comes up, a person is in the hot seat, and they're like, you know what, this is bad for my mental health. This is bad for me. You can't know the truth. You can't know if a person is manipulating you with the facade of mental health, abusing that. You can't know if a person is in a terrible place mentally themselves, what they're dealing with. And you can't, social media is hard because you kind of have to take people at their word, and you kind of know that all the words on social media are kind of lies. Like, everything's, not quite the truth, not necessarily all the facts. And that's why hurling personal judgments around on social media is kind of an issue, because you never know all the facts. You rarely know any facts. It's social media. But I feel like, and this is my approach to a lot of things in life, I feel like you have to defer to people. You need to have what's best for the most people happen. If one theoretical person is acting in a privileged way or whatever, or displaying some sort of privilege that you see on Twitter, and that's, maybe it's something that affects you or it affects people that you care about, but they are also saying, for my mental health or whatever, they're expressing their truth, or they're expressing whatever they're expressing. You can't be, it's not your place to judge if they're lying, if they're telling the truth. It's just, I feel like I would always defer to, let's just let everyone take care of themselves. Like, maybe it hurts you, and maybe I don't understand that, because like you said, Wade, like I don't understand what it's like. I am also the epitome of privileged in so many ways, so I don't relate to a lot of experiences that you out there, viewers, commenters, whatever, have. But I feel like you have to defer to, okay, well, this person needs to take care of themselves. I'm going to accept that, even if I think they're wrong, or maybe they're missing, they're not self-aware about this or something. Like, it's just not the place for it. Social media is not the context for that, and people abuse that in both directions. But you certainly see it a lot more with people just hurling judgments of like, ooh, check your privilege. Ooh, that's pretty racist. Like, it's not a good context for that. It's not a place to have a discussion. And these sorts of things, you need to have a discussion. If someone is accused of something, they deserve a chance to have a discussion, to tell, to get the facts out, to be truthful, and to talk. And maybe they were wrong, but maybe they're willing to learn. Maybe they're willing to hear you and be like, you know what? That's terrible. I feel I acted really like an asshole. I am wrong. And I hear you. You can't have that on Twitter. You don't have that discussion. It doesn't happen. So there's nothing positive that's going to come from that anyway. But it's just not a good place. It's just not.
Yeah. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's fascinating to watch my own chat right now. Because
I've been reading a lot of mine too.
It's exactly the same thing that happens on Twitter in microcosm. It's exactly like what you were saying. Is chat, social media is not a place to have a discussion, especially among the people that are in it. It's a shout box. It is the same as on my Discord. I have a room called the Shouting Room. The Screaming Room, sorry. It's called the Screaming Room. And it's a room where you can, not right now, because I had to close it because it was crashing Discord. It's a room where you can go and you can just scream. And you can scream and scream and scream as much as you want. And people do love the Screaming Room. The difference is with social media is all the screams are comprehensible. Like, everything is comprehensible. And the screams are loud enough to be heard around the world, and every single one of them is comprehensible. And that's it. The cost to scream into social media is nothing. It's negligible. It's like a few bytes of data. It's nothing. So the barrier to entry is so small. And because everyone is just screaming and no discussion is happening, there's no way to get anywhere with those conversations on social media. It's not for conversations. It's not for a discussion. People may have a discussion in a Twitter thread and they may reach a conclusion. That is just such an exception to the general purpose of social media.
That does not happen.
No one is going to convince someone on social media of pretty much anything, because it is not really a place for objective truth either. It's a place for opinions and thoughts. The places that you get the final conclusions of it are from bodies of authorities or like people that you trust or something like that. But then the danger is, are you in a vacuum or an echo chamber? And then you realize, like, it's just a bunch of echo chambers that were ordinarily closed off that has been opened. And not only are they echoing inside, they're echoing everywhere. So every opinion at once. It's if you go into a thing like social media looking for an answer, you'll get how many people are in their world? 8 billion? You'll get 8 billion answers. And almost every one of them will be different. And so it's just like, if you're looking for it to be a tool to find the right answers, you are fighting an uphill battle. It's just because when you get with the system with humans, I don't have a conclusion, but I agree with a lot of what Bob was saying, and it's a complicated issue.
Let me make a quick aside here. I just want people that are in our chats, if there's really bad news, like, viral news going around, something devastating happened, don't be the one who goes around to everyone's chats spamming it or cheering bits and be like, hey, did you hear this horrible thing happen? Like, breaking news to people that are live is another thing that can be devastating to mental health. And I know people that have blocked and have their mods block and delete that news immediately. I can handle it. I don't mind it. But as a general rule, there's a lot of people coming into my chat and trying to share breaking news. But whenever someone is live, sometimes that information can be hard to process. So please stop doing that. If we have the capability of going and looking at things, and we will find out probably on our own time if we go to social media, we go elsewhere. But don't be the person that comes and just throws something that can be potentially very mentally devastating to read in someone's face while they're live. It's not cool. I get you're trying to like break the news and share that information because it might be interesting or it might be whatever, but we handle things differently. And as a general rule of thumb, just as a piece of advice, please don't do that.
You know what's interesting, Wade, even with that aside, just analyzing from a macro level, you telling people that is setting up a situation where someone else will get ostracized for doing it, but they didn't hear your proclamation to do it. You know what? I'm not saying it's a bad thing. There's nothing you could do about that. Obviously, if you want something done, say it. And but I'm fascinated because of the cascading effect, and this is what social media does. Yeah. Wade just told all of everyone listening not to do something. So all of you now know that Wade doesn't want that done. If someone wants to share news but wasn't here today, goes to Wade's channel, then other people might be like, you fucking idiot, don't do that. And then suddenly that person is subjected to something. Again, not saying you shouldn't say what you want done in your own stream, Wade. I am just marveling at the complexities that just keep echoing off of the fact that social media is weird.
Well, there's also the other group that will intentionally come and do that now.
Exactly.
Because I said not to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, and you don't know which is which. I will say the way we do it here is typically if there's something shared like that we don't want in the chat, the first thing we do is like mods will delete the comment and then they will tell the person like, hey, we don't share new, like they will try to like break it to them as if they're new and they don't know any better. Yeah. Some people don't take the hint. Or have you noticed, I don't know if you noticed this, sometimes someone gets like a comment deleted and immediately like, they get something deleted and their immediate reaction is to not think, I wonder what I did wrong. It's to get pissed off and feel like they were wronged and then become more of a dick. Like people handle things very differently. It's very bizarre. Mm-hmm. Some people cannot handle being corrected or told how to behave. Like I consider like, your stream is kind of like going into your home. Bob's stream is kind of like going into Bob's home. Like we all have our own rules. We all have our own way of running things. And it's like people come in and they do something that we don't want done. And then they're like, fuck you. This other streamer doesn't hold people accountable for being a dick. And it's like, where are you right now? Are you at their house or are you at my house? Like, I don't know. It's just so bizarre that people do that. And I'm not trying to call anybody specifically for doing this. There are multiple people in my chat that have done the like breaking news thing. But just like as a general aside, I just wanted people to know that I don't think that's okay. And again, people that deal with high anxiety, sometimes just having that stuff thrown in their face can make them have to end their stream, or it can affect them adversely, and they'll try to like cover it up. Then later on, they'll like, you know, have to decompress because it's tough. Sometimes it's tough to know how to react to something when you're not expecting it. So that's what I'm not trying to shame anybody, just general advice, because it keeps happening where people are coming in and like trying to do breaking news, and it's like, great, but think before you speak, maybe. And again, the assholes, it'll be easy to tell the assholes because the assholes will just keep doing it and it's like, bye-bye. But like you said, someone new will come in, share the news again, and it's like, all right, well, I guess let's do the song and dance again. I can only repeat myself so many times. It's just like every stream, how it's like, does Bob stream? Where's Bob streaming? It's like, facebook.com/myscar.
It's one of those things where if you want to be a part of the system in any way, you have to be subjected to all of the good and bad of the system. Like me as a content creator on the internet, if I want to exist as a content creator, unfortunately, like I can't protect myself from all of the negatives of it. I kind of have to accept the good with the bad and then just live my life working towards making more good than bad. I think there's no real conclusion to be made. There's no right way to go about it. But at the end of the day, for me and my philosophy is just like, I do what I can, and what I can't do, I can't do. And if I've forgotten something, to err is human, and that is that. There's only so much that you can expect out of yourself. Anyway.
You guys want to play games?
Unfortunately, I need to go to get some more painkillers and lie down, get some food or something. I'm feeling queasy. Man, I'm feeling queasy. So I'm going to take it easy. And,
yeah, no worries. And for the people out there bitching that we're talking and not gaming, we do this every Tuesday. Podcast is the literal fucking section I'm in right now. I'm not in game. It doesn't say Valheim. It says podcast and talk shows. All right, sorry, just want to get that out.
If you go to Wade's stream and tell him he's in the wrong, doing the wrong thing, instant ban. Everyone ostracize that person. You need to get.
I think you should raid Wade with
Yeah.
a very specific set of instructions.
Yeah.
No, we should do a
yeah.
cross-platform Bob raid.
What's
'cause
some
I don't
bad
know. It
news
doesn't
that
happen.
happened
Oh,
today?
don't,
What do we got?
please.
Okay, you know, just don't say that bad news. Don't say anything specific. Just go to when I raid Wade. Just be like, man, did you hear
Bad
the horrible bad
news."
news?
Mods, I
Man,
wish you the best of luck. I'm going on a 10-minute break to anywhere else. I'll be back. You guys.
all right. They are gonna keep streaming. Remember, Bob is over on Facebook, facebook.com/myskirm. The link is being linked by the mods here. Or Wade, if you ask Wade where Bob streams, he will also tell you. He will tell you very specifically, so don't worry about that. He's
Yeah,
got you
definitely
covered.
ask. He knows.
Yeah. But you
I
guys
do.
have you guys have fun. Take care. I'm gonna go get some more Tylenol.
Hope you feel better, dude.
It shouldn't be
Just
more
day
than a
by
few
day,
days.
put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking out the door.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.